everyone, today we're going to be sharing some tips and tricks on Lightroom that we wish we knew when we first started photography.
We're going to be editing these photos with our free preset, so if you haven't already, pause this video, go to the description below, click the link, it'll bring you to our website where you can download our free preset.
Okay, let's jump right into it. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is color. So often when we bring a photo in, maybe after we put our preset on it, we like to check the auto white balance, and that's when Lightroom guesses the temperature and tint of the photo. This photo was very green of India and Jay, so it's decided to really pump the pinks, but I'm going to bring them down. I'm going to bring it a little bit warmer, and I'm actually not going to put a preset on this one and bring everything up for you. Bring the contrast up, highlights down. I'm going to bring the shadows up a little bit and the whites, and bring the blacks down and continue to bump the exposure until I'm happy. So once you've put auto white balance on and adjusted the temperature and tint, really focusing on the skin tones and the color that you love, that is your style, one thing we wish we knew was camera calibration. So if you go down right to the bottom and click on this arrow and open up camera calibration, watch what happens when I click blue primary. Increase the saturation. You can see their skin becomes very, very orange. And if I bring it all the way down, it becomes completely desaturated. So this is actually very helpful for skin tones, which we'll talk about later, but it's also really helpful for the general color of the image. So once I'm happy with how the colors are through the camera calibration, I'll bring it up to HSL, which is the hue, saturation, and luminance sliders. Our particular style, we love decreasing the yellows and the blues. And I'm going to increase the vibrancy, which brings out the colors in the midtones. And I'm going to decrease the saturation of the overall image. And I love the colors of that one, and that doesn't even have a preset on it.
Okay, cool guys. So next I'm going to talk about exposure. Alright, so here we have the raw photo. I'm going to go ahead and paste our preset right onto it. And one of the biggest things that I wish I knew when I first started out was to go down here and click Enable Profile Corrections. And you'll see right away what it does to the photo and the way it feels as far as the overall exposure. So let's talk about shadows and blacks. So the difference between shadows and blacks is blacks are the part of the photo that are so far gone they have no detail anymore, so you can't bring them up enough to add any detail. Bringing down the blacks adds a natural contrast, and bringing up the shadows takes those areas that are darker and adds some exposure to them to give the overall image feeling like it's in better light, where you can see if I bring this shadow slider down, we lose so much detail that was there in the photo from it being up before. The last thing I want to show you dealing with exposure is the brush tool. If I zoom into Gregory and Anna here, you can see that Gregory is actually pretty dark. He was facing away from the light source, so the shadow is across his face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I'm going to click on the brush tool. You can see the brush here. So I'm going to go ahead and color the area that's too dark. And as you can see, it doesn't really appear as if it's doing anything. If that happens, you can go ahead and click O on your keyboard and it'll show an area in red where you just highlighted. So now I'm going to continue to do that so I can see where I'm putting my brush over. So I'm going to go to all these darker parts of the image, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go over here now to exposure. And what it's doing is it's bringing up the exposure of the highlighted area. And be sure to click O to take off that mask overlay so that you can see how much exposure you need to add. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit until I feel like there's enough detail.
Okay, so we really wanted to talk about skin tone next, because I think right now in the industry there are so many different trends with skin tone, and I really think it is very subjective to what you like and what your style is. For us, we really like try and keep the skin tone as close to the raw file as possible, like what it really looked like. But I mean, we also love when skin looks really warm and fresh as well, so it's completely up to you. So I'm going to paste our preset on this photo. This blue here, I feel like distracts away from the connection between Amy and Kyle. So if you go down, if you have something like this, go down to the HSL sliders and look at luminance and bring blue all the way up, and we'll bring the saturation of it down. And there's some green and yellow too, so I'll bring down the yellow, the green, and the aqua as well. In Photoshop, I'll take away some of those flyaway hairs that she has, and that way it really doesn't take away from the connection that they have. So with her skin tone, something that is cool with the HSL sliders is you can actually bring up the luminance of orange all the way or down all the way. If you bring it up a little bit, you can see that it brings really a lot of exposure to that. So if you have underexposed skin tones but you want the colors to look really amazing, this is actually a really helpful way to do it. I'm going to take you to another photo and I'm going to paste our preset straight onto it. Now I love this photo. Her skin looks very beautiful, but talking about skin tone and talking about color of the skin, something we really love to do is go down to camera calibration, and I wish that I'd known this when I first started out trying to, you know, when the skin just does not look right and you're trying to fix it. I have found most of the time going down to the blue primary and looking at the saturation, I'm actually going to bring it up and watch what happens to her skin. Wow. And just like the overall like feel of the photo.
The last thing we really wanted to touch on is getting rid of distractions in our photos. So let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and paste our preset. The only thing I see in this photo distracting from the overall image is a little bit of the darkness in the forest on the right side of the frame. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click on the graduated filter tool and bring it down to the right side of the frame. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag into the photo. I'm going to go up here to the exposure and I'm going to bring it up until the dark parts of the image are not as dark anymore and are less distracting
That looks good.
from the subject. So right here we have a beautiful image of Joel and Ashley, but you see here the people and the dogs on the side of the image. It's definitely taking away from the focus being on them in that moment. And this actually happens quite a bit.
All the time.
All the time. And so we're going to take the people and the dogs out of this photo. So we're going to go over here to the spot removal tool. I'm going to make sure that this brush is a good size, and I'm just going to go over here and click and drag right over them and let that space be filled. And I'm going to do that for the dog as well and for these two people.
Yeah.
And it's simple as that. It just takes a couple seconds and your photo is way more clean and everyone is focusing on the moment.
So good. Oh, we love showing these tips and tricks to you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If anything about it was helpful, we'd love if you could hit the like button. It's super encouraging to us. And if you want to see more, we're going to be releasing more tutorials soon. Hit the subscribe button.
Also, if you haven't already, be sure to download our preset. Go down to the description below. Click on that link.
Yeah, so good. We'll see you next week.
Bye guys. Peace.
Do it again.